One of the biggest hoaxes in life and one of the most destructive hoaxes or beliefs in relationships and marriage and love is that other people cause your emotions. It's nonsense. They don't. They can't, actually. If you can step outside this stupid reasoning for a moment with me, you'll see that it simply cannot be true. But, everywhere we go, we encounter sayings like, you made me angry, you pissed me off, you upset me, you made me feel like a nobody in public. And it's really not true, because these are emotions, or these are changes and feelings that we do to ourselves. Nobody else can make you angry. So one of the little tests you can do, when either now stop the stop the recording, or as soon as it's finished, do this for yourself. Ask yourself, how do I do anger, for example? Or you can do grief if you want. Anger's a good one, though. How do I do anger? Well, I sort of stiffen up a bit, and I get hot in the face, and my voice goes up half an octave. And I get really assertive, and I stand in an assertive start. I feel likely to attack something, so I'm glowering and overbearing. All of those are things that you do to yourself that make you angry. That's how you manifest anger. You do it. Now, the thing is, you don't need to. It's a choice. You don't need to do that. So if somebody breaks a favorite ornament and you decide to do anger, that's your choice. The person who broke the ornament didn't do it. He or she either just lucked out, or if they were being negligent, more than accidentally smashed it, that's their bad behavior. But, you getting dramatically emotional about it and being upset about it is your own thing. It's your own affair. Remember the famous saying from William Shakespeare, nothing is either good or bad, but that thinking makes it so. So whatever happens, it's your choice how you relate to it. But if you think about it, we all do different emotions. I mean, how would you do grief, say? Well, you would hang your head, wouldn't you? You tend to hang your head. I'm not going to keep my head hanging, because otherwise the sound won't pick up so good. But, you hang your head, you slow down, your voice drops in tone, and you become actually quite unresponsive. If you think about it, someone says, do you want a cup of tea? You might not say anything at all, or you might just go, and that's supposed to mean yes, please. The other person says, "What was that? A yes or a no?" You know what I'm talking about. That if you're doing grief, you're not usually very responsive or communicative. And we do fear, of course. We feel cold. Our skin goes white. Our palms are sweaty. We do fear. Now, a lot of people. I discovered this for myself about 30 years ago, but a lot of people who are nervous about flying have not totally understood that the fear reaction is not necessarily fear. I mean, if you look at the facts and the probabilities, statistics, the chances of you dying in an airplane are close on zero. It's really very, very safe. Much, much more dangerous in a car. And, we're happy to spend time in a car. We don't hang onto the seat and sweat and feel terrible, because generally we assume we're going to be okay. Well, in an aircraft, you're definitely going to be okay. The very, very, very tiny percent of people who come to harm are vanishingly small compared to the hundreds of millions who fly every year. So fear isn't really irrational in that situation. And a person can sit and buckle themselves into an aircraft seat and think, well, nothing's going to happen, but then find themselves, with their sweaty palms anyway, and feeling cold, and complexion drawn of colour and so on. That's another example of doing something to yourself that isn't necessarily rational or logical. Anyway, we're not here to talk about fear of flying. We're here to talk about love in its many manifest forms. But one of the great hoaxes that you've got to get a grip on and eliminate from your life and your thinking and your relationships, and also, if you possibly can, persuade your partner to dump this too, you've got to get rid of this belief that your partner will cause your emotions. It's one of the biggest, baddest hoaxes there is. And parents, in fact, should raise children to a full understanding. It's a duty, a serious parental duty, to raise their children to an understanding that emotions are something you do to yourself. They don't happen to you. Nobody does them to you. You do them to yourself. Of course, again, we've got the problem that most parents are completely out of control, utterly dysfunctional, screaming, ranting, raving, weeping and throwing things and carrying on, like adults do, teens do, kids do. Because it's all passed on. Children see adults behaving in this way, and that's what you're supposed to do. And there are, let's say, I was going to use the word primitive, but I'm really reluctant to use the word primitive of societies where people don't do this. The Eskimos, for example, the Inuit, they're very puzzled about the way that Westerners, whites, throw their emotions about everywhere. They just don't do it because it doesn't serve any purpose, it doesn't help anything, doesn't solve any problems. It doesn't stop you being attacked by a killer whale or a polar bear or something like that. Only, calm, rational thinking does that. So they don't really understand why we go in for this emotional nonsense. So it's not necessary. It's not part of human life. Yes, it's common, but I have a saying I use over and over, which is common doesn't make it normal. And just because something is common or normal doesn't make it acceptable. There may be better ways to do things. So one of the first transformations, one of the first healings that you've got to do, whether it's a current relationship with a person who's sitting there in front of you at the meal table every day, or whether you're currently on your own and you're going to do it with someone from the past, you've got to start reversing all the emotional charges that you built up by saying, this person did not make me angry, this person did not cause me to lose my temper. And you need to recite this as a litany over and over, several times a day, until you get used to this kind of thinking. That's the first step, right? Is to be aware that you're thinking that way. Oh, damn it, Jim did it. You're talking to your friend, Jim did it again. He makes me so angry when he behaves like that. You've got to then spot yourself and think, well, no, actually, that's not true. He didn't. I did it to myself. So the first thing to do is spot it happening. Then the second step of cleverness and mental hygiene is to intercept yourself doing it. When you feel this tendency coming on, somebody's doing something over there. Now, all right, it might be a child scribbling on the wall and making a mess of the paintwork, or it might be your beloved person who's going out for the night and will get drunk again, and this is the 50th time, and you're tired, sick and tired of the whole thing, you don't want any more of it. Whatever the situation you're facing, the next step is to interrupt yourself with this pattern. And let's take the going out drinking with the boys, right? So you will say to yourself, well, there he goes again. I'm sure he's going to misbehave again. I think I'll just have an early night. I really don't want to face this situation when this person comes back. Well, that, of course, would be tough going, wouldn't it? But, you have to learn to take on some mastery at this level. And when you start doing it, you realize other people around you are doing it. You also have some defenses. If your spouse or partner says, you made me angry, you can say, no, I didn't. You made yourself angry. I agree that I was late for the appointment. Totally agree. Hands up, sorry. But you made yourself angry and you upset yourself, not me. I was just late and it was a bit unavoidable. We'll talk about that if you like, but if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. Just go on making yourself angry until you're tired with it, and then when you're all done, then we'll have a conversation. Do you get what I'm saying? Now, the second really big hoax, we're laying in some very elementary basics here. The second basic hoax that comes about in relationships is that your partner somehow knows what you're thinking. They know what you like, they know what you think. They can't know, and they don't know, they can't know. This is a stupid assumption. And yet the number of people that go that way, it's almost a cliche, a woman who's huffing and puffing while she's sweeping or cleaning, and the husband says something like, what's wrong? There's something wrong. What's wrong? And she's saying, if you don't know, I'm not going to tell you. This is very common behavior. It's cliche and funny. It's used in comedy sketches. But, it shows up in life for real. People have this completely stupid idea that your partner can know what you're thinking and you haven't told them. This is one of the basic failings in a relationship. We need to exchange information so that we can interact affably and intelligently. And we can't do that without data. It's like having a computer. It's not going to give you good answers if you don't put any data in it at all. It's just going to sit there and crunch random numbers and we'll come out with random number answers. We don't want that. We want to base it on sound knowledge and, understanding where our beloved one is at. What is he or she thinking? What does he or she really like? And the answer is they've got to tell you, and you've got to get them to tell you. You've got to knock off this silly belief, stupidity that they should know. Why should they if you didn't tell them? And secondly, you've got to find out by encouraging conversation. And the relationships that do best are the ones that listen, where this is a given. That you will listen to what your partner or spouse is saying, and you will act on it. You will absorb it and do something about it. There's no point in, if you don't ask, you don't hear anything, right? If you ask and they speak, but you don't listen, it's a waste of time. If you act and they speak it and you listen, but you don't do anything, it's a waste of time. Do you see? It can fail at all sorts of barriers. But you've got to master the art of doing this, of getting from the person what it is that they want. In turn, it's your duty to tell them what you want. You're not being selfish or domineering to say, well, I don't like football, or I love, I love old romantic movies or something like that. It's your duty to tell your partner things that you like and things that you don't like. You don't have to be acrimonious. I don't like stupid football, stupid fat-ass guys running around in a pitch with a ball, kicking each other's head. Yeah, you don't need to do it like that. You just say, I don't particularly like football. I'm talking American football, of course, not soccer, as opposed to soccer. But all you have to do is say, I don't particularly like football. I get nothing from watching it. If the other person really is passionate about football, then you've got a rift. So you come up with a solution. You do something that will solve it. There are really 2 or 3 possibilities. One is, he will go to the match and you will stay at home and cook something nice for the next meal. Or if he's, God forbid, but it does happen, in the position where he likes football but would like it a lot more if you came to the match with him, to show that you're a loving, caring wife. Well, that's a burden, but that you can still come up with an answer. One of the possible answers, of course, is just going alternate weeks. Well, we'll take it in turns. So every other week you can get what you want, but the week in between I get what I want. Do you see what I mean? I'm just talking about being intelligent. I'm not telling you what to do or what conversations to have. I'm merely saying you've got to have them. Communication is the absolute essence of any loving relationship. And listening attentively. I call this respectful listening. It's no good just hearing he's going on about football. That's not respectful listening. Respectful listening is being caring and interested in what the person is saying and what they're feeling and why they're saying it. Whether that's a joyous thing or they've just hit a problem and they're very upset about something. That you listen attentively, and it's something that we should all do. We can't give all our time to everybody around us every time they get upset, so we kind of prioritize a bit. But listen, there's nobody more important than your spouse or your partner. You can't go running off to your girlfriends and spend hours yapping with them when you're not willing to spend even a minute talking things over with your husband or spouse. And of course, reverse that. Guys that won't listen to their wives but are quite happy to go to the bar in happy hour and trash her reputation for 2 or 3 hours, over drink after drink, never stop saying all the things that you don't like about her, and this is wrong, and she does that, and it gets on my nerves, and doesn't that strike you as ironic? That people do behave and talk like that. They won't listen to the one person they should be listening to, and they won't say the things that need saying to the person they should be said to. But they'll say it to other people at great length. They never stop, yappity, 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 yap about all the problems and woes. That doesn't do any good talking to your buddies in happy hour. What does the good is sitting down with your spouse and listening. Now, you probably heard of this idea of the talking stick, and some couples get a great kick out of this. It really works for them that one evening a week, say, Friday evening or something, the week's work is out of the way, weekend coming up, you have a talking stick, and whoever holds it is allowed to speak, and the other person can't interrupt while the person's holding the stick. Now, of course, you've got to be intelligent about this, and it's no good trying to hold onto the stick for 2 hours. You make a few points, then pass it to the other person, and while they hold the stick, you shut up. But it's all about sounding off, not acrimoniously, again, because you have a complaint, because there's something you don't like, does not give you the entitlement to say, you bitch, you damn well never. It doesn't give you the entitlement to do that. It merely gives you the entitlement to express yourself nicely. I do not like you doing that. Or if you wear that kind of dress, to me it looks slutty and tarty, and I've noticed men's reaction you might not have seen, but they're reacting that way too. I'd like you to consider something different, especially when we go out to dinner on a Saturday night. That's intelligent, okay? You stupid slut, you don't know how to... Look at that filthy dress, it's halfway up to your crotch. That is not intelligent conversation, and it doesn't do any good. Listen, I'll leave this with you. It's pretty obvious, you understand that if you do the right kind of conversation, the right exchange of information, it'll be friendly, it'll work, it's got ongoing, it's sustainable, if you want to use, modern ecological terms. And it is ecology, a home and a marriage or a relationship. That is a version of ecology, if you think about it. So, if you want a sustainable relationship, you've got to tackle it on simple terms like this. You have to. The other way of doing it, of acrimonious shouting and name-calling and bawling and look what you did to me, you bastard, I'm trying to dramatize this. I'm sorry to use a few swear words, but people do, you asshole. It's a common enough expression. It's revoltingly rude, but... we meet it, so I'm being a little bit more realistic, perhaps, trying to avoid the F word and the C word, but hey, people often don't in life. But, the one person above all that you should the one person above all you should treat with honor and decency and respect is your romantic sexual love partner. That's the most important person in your universe, in a way. And if not, what are you doing in that relationship? Maybe it's time to change. Okay, that's just a short segment there, but there are two very crucial things. Other people do not create your emotions. You create them for yourself. And you have no entitlement to assume that your partner or spouse knows what you're thinking. If you don't, tell them. So make it clear what is important to you. Make it known. For your own self-interest as well as their peace of mind, because a loving, caring person might be struggling to know what to do. You're not making yourself clear. You seem to be, one day it's all right, the next day you're angry about this. And, people live like that. If you're honest, I'm sure probably, you might be living like that if you're honest. So a person has difficulty putting it together. So you need to talk with a calm, intelligent rationality. In other words, a loving rationality, loving calm. Okay, good luck with that. It's one of the two of the most important fundamentals that we need to get started on this healing a lifetime of love.